Welcome to Ashes and Roses, the podcast.
A millennial review of entrepreneurship.
We're your hosts. I'm Junie.
And I'm Ashley. We'll be sharing with you an honest review of our trials and triumphs in business.
The Ashes and the Roses.
On season 2, we'll be inviting other entrepreneurs to share their journey as well.
Join us every Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
And as always, we'll be keeping it real,
raw, and revolutionary. Welcome to another episode of Ashes and Roses. I'm excited to be back to challenge the industry once again. This episode is an exciting one. It's an exciting one. Today we are challenging. Can I get a drum roll for this industry that we're challenging?
Yo, why do you always put me on the spot? I don't know the colors. I don't know.
We can do like a drum roll, please. Yeah. Ooh, yes, that's a good one. We are doing the healthcare industry today. Yes. We're doing the healthcare industry. And before I get into all of that, I'm going to let my co-host, Ashley, introduce our healthcare industry guest today.
Yes, so today our guest host is Marcella Mondesir. Mm-hmm. She's a certified holistic health coach, and you've been on your own personal wellness journey for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And she's an advocate for a holistic and balanced lifestyle. So we know you because we've worked with you personally through our business, and you're helping us with our menus at Sapphire House.
Sapphire House, you say? Yeah.
Yes. Tell them a little bit about Sapphire House, and I'll go ahead and finish with this bio.
Sapphire House is a memory care home located in Westerville, Ohio, providing personal care and memory care to adults affected by Alzheimer's and dementia. Visit us at sapphirehousing.com to find out more.
Yes, thank you. Brief commercial.
Yeah,
right. Okay, so going back to Marcella, so your passion has driven you to launch this new business called Auric Vitality, which you're going to tell us all about in your guest segment. Mm-hmm. So yes, we're excited to have you. Welcome to Ashes and Roses.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation, and I feel like after this conversation, I'm going to be like, okay. I mean, you already know when you need to do better, but I feel like from this conversation, I'm going to be even more like, okay.
On top of it, like it's time to
try.
I feel like 2020 is the year. It's a wake-up call, I think, for everyone to just, like, take care of yourself. And, it's a transition. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Yes, so are we. So usually on our show, we start off with the thought of the day.
Yeah.
So this is a segment where we either rant or, we can talk about a quote or just anything that's just kind of just been on our mind. It's pretty much random. So Junie, would you like to share what your thought of the day is?
So my thought of the day is just something that I was wondering about as far as, like, I was just thinking about, like, relationships, not just, like, with, romantic partners, but just in general. And just thinking about how I know personally there wasn't an emphasis on how to keep and cultivate and grow together within a relationship. Like society-wise, I feel like it's kind of like if that relationship or if that person isn't serving you, then it's time to go. But like, how kind of self-centered is it to think that someone is always going to be in servitude to us? You know what I mean? So that's my thought.
Whoa.
That was deep.
I was just thinking about that.
Threw it on us. Okay.
No, seriously. Because seriously, it's like, I was reading this book, Mating in Captivity, and it was just talking about how we put so much, we want so much from our relationships, and you can't get everything from any one person, not in a friendship, not in a marriage, not in a parental child relationship. You know what I mean? Like, we're friends, and I get something from my relationship with you, but I also get something from my relationship with someone else, and that, and the bits and pieces of that are parts of me, and that's what makes me whole. You know what I mean? But to expect you to to fulfill all of my wants and desires as one person, it's kind of crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And to think just because one day you can't fulfill my desires that I'm just going to cut you off.
Right.
But that's the messages that are being sent around. Like, what doesn't serve you, cut it off.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like it's a cancel culture right now, too.
Yeah.
It's like, if this doesn't work, just get rid of it. But really, like, starting to find who you are and being really confident in that, and just having someone as like a partner instead of like the other half to make you whole, but being whole on your own.
Right.
Is that book by Esther Perel?
Yes.
Oh my God, I want to read it.
Yes.
Is it really good?
It's a good book.
It's a good book. Yeah, it's a good book.
It's very eye-opening because you're just like, you really do go into, you just realize that relationships are, you know, they've turned it into this fantasy, really. Like things that really don't happen, things that, you know, men and women really don't feel or really don't do, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so that book kind of just opens your eyes and you're like, you think you're going to get married and things are going to be like rainbows and butterflies and it's going to be happily ever after. And in all honesty, it can really turn into a nightmare.
Yeah. Relationships take work.
They
does.
do take work. And I feel like we're not taught that.
Yeah.
You know, we're not taught that. So when the time comes to show up and do the work, it's like, oh, nah, like, I'm the prize or I deserve better. But it's just like, you're going to do that. If you're going to do that in every relationship, it's always going to look like the people you come across are not good, but you're not willing to, you know what I mean? Like,
But what I notice is our generation, though, is like, because relationships take work, we're not willing to be in relationships anymore.
because we don't
So
like to
now we're just this generation of single people.
Yeah. You
Just
bounce from one person to the next.
to the
you
Right,
know,
like-
and
the other.
Yeah. You wait for it to be easy. And
Yes.
It's just never.
It's
Exactly.
never going to be easy.
Exactly. And I don't think people realize that, like, even if relationships do sometimes bring turmoil, because some of them do, you learn so much, like, you grow so much as a person. So it's very interesting that, you know, our generation is like trying to avoid that. So, you are, you know, our Gabby. So she came on and we talked about how, you know, the way we're conditioned in society. And I feel like the way that we have been conditioned has a lot to do with how we are, like, in our relationships as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was a good thought of the day.
Yeah,
I like that one.
It
Yeah.
was. So my thought of the day actually kind of falls into in line with the topic of the day as far as like healthcare goes. I was talking to somebody, one of my cousins the other day, and we were talking about healthcare. We were just talking about this particular topic. And I pretty much mentioned that, like, you know, I've been constantly going back and forth with trying to become healthier and eating better foods. And I've come to the conclusion that I think, like, that I'm addicted to meat and bad food.
Oh,
I think it's an actual addiction. Like, I have been reading this book, and the book is the title is leaving my head right now. But basically the book, he talks about how, like, we're all addicted. Like, you know, everybody automatically thinks, like, addiction, you need, you know, rehab, and people who usually go are either alcoholics or addicted to drugs or whatever. But me, like, from a nurse's perspective, I look at all my patients as addicts of something. Like, you know, if you're diabetic, like, a lot of them tend to be addicted to sugar. Like, and, you know, if you have heart issues, you're probably addicted to salty foods and just, like, foods that clog your arteries. Like, so I wonder if the model of healthcare, my thought of the day is just kind of like the model of healthcare, if we treated it more like rehab instead of like, hey, let me come here and fix what the problem is. Let me add this and add that to enhance whatever, you know, and just make all this manipulation of what our body already does so greatly. The book is called Recovery by Russell Branson.
Yeah. Shout out to our studio assistant.
Yes. So anyway, that's just been my thought. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's pretty deep. And I think I was reading an article that also kind of talked about that as well. And then you saying like healthcare should be more rehabilitative, like all of it, you know, like even and this is just going back to like when I was taking courses, prison reform, just how it was supposed to, it's put out like it's rehabilitative, but it's not.
Oh,
You get
like,
what I mean?
the
So,
prison
like,
system.
The prison,
Okay.
yeah, the prison system. And
Okay.
a lot of people who are pushing for prison reform, you know, have that also like thought that it should be like a rehab, which is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
You're supposed to be rehabilitated to be let back
Right.
back into
like
society.
monks should be let
But-
back into society
Right.
after they've been in prison. Like, like, you know what I mean? You would
Yeah.
think they would come out a monk. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you've been meditating and,
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah,
I agree.
think that's true.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
you know what? That doesn't serve the corporation.
The narrative right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I feel like I've thought about that too. Like when people are in prison or in jail, like why are we just locking people up and why are we not giving them an opportunity to grow so that when they do come back into society, they have something more to offer? Like even gardening or like activities like that. How cool would that be to give them something more than just, you know,
a record.
yeah.
I mean, we know now well enough. Like we are well aware now. Just I think in general, I don't know if it's just the people that I'm around, but I feel like people are more aware of mental illness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what mental illness does, like, you know, what traumatic effects, events that happen to us in our lives, how it impacts us as adults, and what we do in society, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to prison because they committed some kind of crime,
Right.
look back into their history and figure out, okay, what is causing you to, you know, be doing this? And then that's when you find out it's your environment. Oh, it's, you know, your struggle to put food on the table. Like
Right.
when you handle those, when you find out like what are the needs that are not being met,
Yeah.
that's when you can kind of have a productive, you know,
Right, 'cause
active person
everyone's
in
just
their society.
surviving.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone is it's survival out here, survival of the fittest. So if the way that I survive is a crime to you, then you just
Right.
have to lock me up.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a different
So-
perspective. Instead of like condemning those people, really asking the question like why? What are the circumstances that have caused that? Which, you know, I think opens up a whole other narrative and story for people to look at. And I feel like, I guess this is my thought of the day, but like finding your joy. And I
Yeah.
feel like 2020, we finally had the ability to like take time to find your joy. You know, people are not at work, they have a little extra time at home. And we're finding that we can, number one, we don't have to be in the office 9 to 5 every day.
Right.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And people have time to either exercise or cook for themselves or take time with their family. And I feel like it's going to be hard to transition back once
To
this is
work.
all.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to see a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of this because people are wanting to have a really flexible schedule and start partaking in things that really matter to them. So I think
Exactly.
2020, although it's been very difficult for a lot of people, I think it's also been like super eye-opening also.
Yeah, definitely eye opening and yeah.
I think that 2020 is kind of like partly karma for corporations, just a little bit.
Yeah.
For some corporations that are kind of like falling apart right now, because it's like it's exposing them in ways that's like, wow, like workers are now looking at these corporations like they can't trust them as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had their whole retirement on that corporation, and
Yeah.
now things are being exposed.
Yeah, things
so.
are being exposed. And then I think people are realizing like you can't rely on an entity, like something that is here to make money, to make profit. You can't rely on them to think about you,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, it
During
kind of
hard
feels
times.
like every man for himself.
Exactly.
You know,
Definitely.
like we're all looking out for ourselves. And I think also like having that personal accountability, because even in the healthcare system, like we're constantly looking for someone else to make us okay. And right now it's like we don't have that. So
Right.
Because they're the
finding
ones killing us. Hello.
Oh. But we'll get into that, right?
We've already started.
We'll get into that.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
She's the revolutionary. The revolutionist in this one,
Not
right?
wrong.
She's out here like, oh.
I know this thing is gonna get me in trouble. This whole platform.
It's good though. It needs to, you know, I think
Yeah.
that people need to hear this stuff because we've been conditioned to think that these corporations, that are making money off of us care about us.
I know.
They care about our money.
Exactly.
And that's really about it.
Oh
That's
my
how they make
goodness.
their money.
They care about your money. So like you being diabetic works out
For them.
for them.
Right.
You know, like it works out. It works out.
It's
for
feeding their family.
them. It's feeding them.
They don't make money if we're healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't make money at all. So I mean, let's just not give it
I know.
all
I was
away.
like, oh,
Right, so we might as well
into
move.
it.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
on. Let's go on. So in the next segment, it is your segment now.
Ooh,
the guest.
no
we
pressure.
haven't come up with like a fancy introduction
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything or
You
a
just let it flow.
title.
Okay.
But yeah, we sometimes in the middle of it, Junie will come up with a title. So
Yeah.
Marcella's.
Okay.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
we'll
your
see.
segment, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But we choose a random sound effect for
Okay.
the segment.
Yeah.
So pick a color, any color.
Is there a yellow? Is that yellow?
Yellow.
It's a very light yellow. Yeah, I'll
Yes.
go with yellow.
All right. So Marcella's. All right. So in this segment, Junie, go ahead and take over. Let her know what she's going to be talking about.
So Marcella, this is your moment to really just tell us about you. Let us know what you do, what your passions are, what your projects are. Tell us about your company, and
Yeah.
then let us know where we can find you on social media and on the internet.
Okay, I'll try and keep it short and sweet.
Take your time.
Yeah, so I just finished my health coaching certification through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I found that about like 8 months ago. And it was right after I finished my master's program at Oklahoma City University for opera performance.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just trying to figure out what am I going to do with this degree. And I love music, but I was just finding that all of the free time I had was spent researching health. And it's been like that for years. And there was an ad on Facebook that came up, of course, you know.
Of course.
And I looked,
Right.
yeah.
Just stalking your brain.
Right.
Selling your data.
Seriously. I think about health and they're like, alrighty, let's throw this in there. So I found the school and it just like, I couldn't get it off of my mind. It was something that just like stuck with me and I finally decided to do it. And it's been such an amazing, eye-opening thing for me because I'm finding that this is my passion.
Wow.
But it's funny because, you know, you leave high school and they say, all right, go to college and decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I'm like, we're kids. We have no idea.
What we want to do.
Exactly.
Right.
After all you taught us was math,
Right.
science. Like, I mean,
Geometry. Like
Right, now
I've
find
never
your
used
life
geometry
purpose.
ever.
yeah.
So, you know, and I was good at music, and I think a lot of times we go with what we're good at. But if I had had more time to really think about, like, what I'm doing with my life, every single day I was helping people with health. You know, it was like this I'm a caretaker in a lot of ways. I mean, I give tough love. I'm not like, you know,
Oh, you do?
yeah, I'm a
You do
tough
the
love,
tough love?
you know, yeah.
Oh, man.
But I really want to help people. And so this journey really started when my mom got sick. She had cancer. And she started doing natural things for her health. And so in grad school, she came to see me and she went home and I got a call from my stepdad. And he's like, your mom's at the hospital. She says, don't come. She's fine. But I just want to let you know it's not a good diagnosis. So of course, I went home. And the doctors told me she had 6 to 8 weeks to live.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like a huge just, you know, it kind of stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
And I got there and my mom was just like, I'll be fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to get through this. And she ended up living for 3.5 years
Wow.
after that. And so I think I have a unique perspective because I've been a part of the natural health world and I've also been a part of, you know, this medicine, the very modern medicine. I've seen both sides of it. And I think the only reason my mom lived as long as she did was because she had the combination of like natural medicine that we did and the healthcare that we have now. So, you know, I've kind of seen the inner workings, but with my company, I really want to give people an opportunity to find what health means to them. You know, I'm not the same as a nutritionist where I see someone and I give them, you know, a nutrition plan, eat this, and then you let them go on their way. My job is to really be a coach and help people find what nutrition is for them. Because we're all different. I think one thing society doesn't take account for is that we're all individuals. So they prescribe medicine and it's the same for everyone. You know, if you have a heart problem, all of you take this. Where in all honesty, we should be looking at each individual and how they react to medicine or if there's things that we can do that's preventative. So my job is to really help people on that journey and decide, they talk about paleo, keto, all of these diets. And it's like, well, why don't you just do a combination of what makes you feel good and what makes you feel healthy? So that's kind of what my journey is. And so I do coaching one-on-one, but I'm also really interested in activism and helping, create these platforms so that the healthcare industry has to serve us instead of us making them money.
Challenge the industry.
You know, because it really is. Right now, they're not being challenged, and they're able to censor people that are challenging them. So we need more of that. So I really want to do things on a bigger scale while also helping people individually and in groups. But I think the time is now. I think a lot of people, and you guys are challenging it. And I want to give a shout out to you because, with your company
thank you.
And what you're doing, having me come in and create this new meal plan for them and really thinking about nutrition instead of just give this, and this, and they'll be fine. But really taking into account what these people are dealing with at the age that they're at and how to really give them the optimal level of health and nutrition. I think it's really, you guys are ahead of the game. So
thank you.
That's really awesome.
Did y'all hear that? Sapphire House.
Give them another plug.
Is a memory care home. No, I'm just kidding. Just a little shameless
Thank you.
plug.
We appreciate that.
It really is. Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Number one, I want to thank you for sharing your story. That was amazing. That was beautiful. And I have some questions, as far as you mentioned the combination of holistic and, modern medicine.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of, I've never heard anyone say it like that before. I always hear somebody say, I'm only team holistic, holistic only. Modern medicine is just completely trash, Yeah. So, what are your thoughts around those people who are saying only holistic, and then those people who are just solely sticking to modern medicine? I've only seen either one or the other. I've never seen them really. Yeah. I've never really seen anybody combine the two.
Yeah, I think in all honesty, we have to be open, and certain things work for certain people. My mother was at such a late stage that I think natural medicine is something you do over time. Yeah. But if something really bad if you get in a car accident, I'm not going to be here's some tea, do some that's not going to work. So we do need modern medicine. But I think the biggest thing is that we're not focusing on preventative care anymore. Right. They call it health care, but I know a lot of people have said it's sick care because you go there when you're sick. And they don't get paid if you're not sick. So it's hard to trust a system where they profit off of you being
sick.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. But
yeah.
It sounds a little bit like, a country that profited over the bodies of people and free labor. But
go with it.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
I've always had a lot of, that's really one of the other reasons why I'm no longer working in the hospital. And I don't really care to work in the hospital because I was finding that I don't believe in what we're doing anymore. I don't believe I'm here bringing you Oxy for your stomach ache. I can't do that. Yeah, you know what I mean? In my mind, I'm just I'm not helping you. I'm not really helping you.
And then on the news, they're there's an opioid crisis.
Right, exactly.
It's absolutely crazy. I know. My mom had surgery for her spine. So she found out that she had cancer a second time. When she fell down in the shower, they looked and her spine was just like sponges. The cancer had eaten away at the bone.
Wow.
So she was in a neck brace for over 6 months and they went in and did the surgery. And she was on pain pills for maybe 3 or 4 days. She was so concerned about getting addicted because she knows, she did the research on her own and knew how addictive it was. But they're giving these pills like it's candy.
What?
Yeah.
Every 3 hours.
Yeah.
They'll give it to you every 3 hours.
Did we watch a documentary on this?
Yes.
I forget the name.
Pharmacy, I think it was called The Pharmacist. The Pharmacist on Netflix. And that documentary is really what made me feel guilty because he was just if you're, literally I'm the one handing it to you.
Right.
So it's I literally could have participated in your, I definitely participated in that addiction if you are addicted, So it's just a lot for me to.
It's hard to keep doing
that. That's a lot to take.
Stomach. And then not only that, it's even like I said, that I look at my patients, like they're all addicted to something. So when I have these diabetic patients that come in, they lost, had their toe amputated this morning and they're eating a burger this evening,
It's absolutely crazy.
with fries.
Yeah. When we were
she had to throw the fries in there.
yeah,
but I mean, because it's the carbs.
Yeah.
right.
Y'all know what I mean. The carb counters know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The fries make a difference.
It's really crazy. When my mom was sick, we were in the hospital for such a long time, and I had to go get her food because the food that they give you is laden with sugar and chemicals and additives. And I'm like, how is this helping whose body is already trying to fight all of this stuff? You're not even giving the person fuel to get better. And so I think my biggest issue too with modern medicine is that they're not open. My mom lived for 3.5 years and no one asked, what are you doing? She would come in and they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I just keep doing whatever you're doing, but they don't want to know about it. And I'm like, if you really cared and wanted to help other people, wouldn't you ask and try and this isn't even like on the doctors or the nurses or anything like that, because they're so busy just trying to do their job and see all of their patients. They don't even have time for this extra education.
Right.
Which I think is also another thing in the healthcare system. Like, these doctors deserve to have time to continue to educate themselves because there's new stuff coming out all of the time. But yeah, she went from 6 to 8 weeks to over 3.5 years.
Wow.
And her doctor never said
Nothing.
No.
And if you really think about it, it's like, it frustrates me because it's like, if being a doctor is your passion, this should be one of your patients that you're literally studying.
Yes.
Because this is your practice. Like, nobody's like, no one wants to really take ownership of, because there's no room in corporations. When you just lump into a corporation, you don't feel like you can take ownership of your practice like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, if you have one of your patients that you said she would live this long, and then it's going years later.
Right.
Like, this should be a sign for you to be like,
Like
okay, is this something I'm doing? Is this
Yeah.
something they're doing? Let's study this and make this happen for other, my other patients.
But they have to be careful too, because there are legal ramifications. They have to like fit this exact bill, and if it looks different from the steps they're supposed to take, they're scared to do it. Even with supplementation, like, we would ask if she could take supplements, and they're like, no, we're not comfortable with that. So we did it behind the scenes, and when she was in the hospital, something was going on and her lungs were not working, and they had her in the hospital and things weren't working. And so I snuck in liposomal vitamin C and like gave it to her. And within a couple of days, she started getting better and got out of the hospital. They said she'd never get out of the hospital after that. But like, why should I have to sneak that in? Why isn't that an option to try anything possible to help a patient?
Right.
And why aren't they sitting down with you guys and saying, okay, what kind of health do you want?
Right.
Why are they pushing their model? Like, if you like have holistic, research that you've actually done, like you're literally going to school for this, and it
is weird. And then they have no problem giving medicine that has a lot of side effects, but are unwilling to try something that certainly can't hurt. It can only help, or it's neutral, and there are a lot of times that my mom made the very brave decision to not go with what the doctor said, and they made her feel very guilty about it. So it really takes someone who's, set in their beliefs, to say, I'm going to do it anyway. They're like, well, we need to give you blood thinners because you're not walking. But here are all the things that could go wrong. And she's like, well, why don't I just walk? You know what I mean? Like, why are you giving me a pill for something that I can do?
Right.
And the last time she was in the hospital recently before she passed away, they wouldn't let her get out of bed. They put an alarm on, and she's like, I want to get up. I want to walk. I want to make sure that I'm getting my blood flow going through my body. And they literally had an alarm on her bed. So, being the woman that she is, she put a stack of books and stuff on the bed. So it weighed enough and got up and walked around.
Is hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
But why? Yeah. They should be working with that person instead of you feeling like I have to like disobey them to do what I need to do for my health.
And why should it be disobeyed? Because you own your person.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like,
I'm
crazy.
coming to you, but you don't own my body.
Right.
So that's interesting. One point that I want to make, and you still have to tell us where we can find
all of
this information after you leave, because but I want to make a point and see what you guys. So when we say healthcare industry, I think everyone just thinks about like the hospitals and the doctors, but like it's really a conglomerate, right? It's the insurance,
The pharmaceutical companies.
Companies, even like corporate real estate developers.
Right.
Because a lot of people who are sick live in like no food zones or dead zones, so there is no grocery store with like healthy food options, just readily available to them. But there is like corner stores or just like your
liquor stores,
those kinds of things. So, and also like just it's just from top to bottom, even like the homeless industry, because I'm going to call it an industry. Okay, so even that plays into it as well, because with a lot of people, I don't know if you know, but like a lot of the people who are like sitting in EDs on a daily basis are homeless people. You know what I mean? So the healthcare industry is all of it. It's not just like the doctors at the top. It really is a machine where
the doctors are not really at the top,
right? But when people think healthcare, all they see, like I'm talking about like the general community, all they see is like my doctor. They don't see that your doctor is actually taking orders from an executive businessman,
right?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Taking orders from like it just keeps,
exactly. So it's a corporation at the end of the day. So I really wanted to like,
I think that's important to note, because even advertising, like we're one of the few countries that can still advertise pharmaceutical drugs on our TV. Like why is that even a thing? It's crazy.
Why is it a thing that people still buy it, even though in the commercial they said and may cause death?
Right. I know.
That should be enough to be like, nah,
right.
not doing it.
If you even hear it, because it's like the lap right before the episode
It's really
goes
quick
off.
too,
Yeah, it's like the fine print.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's important to note, because it's easy to sit here. I'm very fortunate, and I have access to healthy grocery stores and things like that, but there are people that don't. And to get to a healthy grocery store, they have to drive, 2 hours or get on a bus, or they've done a really good job of marketing unhealthy things to people in lower income neighborhoods. And they've done a study where even changing someone's zip code will change their health without them even eating different food, but just having access to a healthier lifestyle can literally affect the person's well-being.
Wow.
And I think that's super important to note, that, I want to be able to give people actionable steps that are in those communities where they don't have access to healthy grocery stores, because even a little bit is helpful. Like getting out and moving, getting rid of pop and soda is huge. The industry is making a ton of money off of sugar addiction.
Yeah.
They put it in your ketchup, your spaghetti sauce.
Ketchup.
They throw it in everything.
Yeah, they throw it in everything.
And then we wonder why, diabetes has risen.
On a rise.
Yeah.
Yep. And we wonder why it's on a rise in Black communities. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But because most people, who wants to go further than like 10 minutes to go to a grocery store
and spend more money?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not very accessible for people.
Right.
So I think it's important also to do research. I think that's where we're going to have a lot of empowerment, is by not listening to just one person, not even listening to just me, but going out and doing your research and listening to both sides and making, your own health choice from there. Because right now they've kind of tricked us into believing that we don't know how to take care of ourselves. And I really think that we need to start listening to our bodies, and because, we're so separate anymore. We go to the doctor and we're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Tell me what to do. Instead of sitting down and saying, okay, what's wrong with me? What does my lifestyle look like? What are my relationships like? And then going from there. And that's another thing that I do in my health coaching practice. It's not just food, because you can't ask someone who has a really bad relationship at home to take care of themselves and eat healthy, because they've got so much stuff going on. So we call it primary foods. But I, look at people's careers, the money that they're making, the places that they're living, the relationships they have, and their overall just happiness with their life. Because I'm not going to tell someone, well, eat your fruits and veggies and don't have sugar and don't do this, while their life is falling apart.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's hard.
So is that pretty much saying, like, are you saying that, because I have heard that, the food that we eat kind of just reflects like what we're feeling inside it as well?
Yeah, I completely agree. Because if you're tired, you get home from work, you drink wine, right? You just want to relax. You're trying to get your body to relax. So your body's telling you that you're in a high stress situation and you need to relax. But instead of having wine, I can work with someone and be like, hey, instead of getting to the point where you're so stressed out, you have to go home and have a glass of wine, do you have 5 or 10 minutes throughout your day to do a little meditation? or to take a walk and kind of stop that in its tracks. And for a lot of people, that's all they need is just a moment to come back into themselves, take time for themselves, and then get back into work. And then they come home and they might not need that glass of wine, but it takes time, and it takes time to figure out what are your triggers. When you have sugar, that's, an endorphin rush. So why do you need that? Are you not having enough happiness at home? Are you stressed? What's going on that makes you want that? And then I work with them to find other ways to get that endorphin rush instead of going and having, cookies or cake when they get home.
What? Gotcha. You sound like a whole therapist. Where do I sign up?
It kind of is. It's a holistic approach, you know?
Wow. That's okay.
She's like, I'm going
to have my therapy and come out eating healthy.
I think that's what gives you long-term results, though.
Yeah.
How many of us know... We know what it takes to be healthy.
Yeah.
Eat your fruits and veggies. Don't have a bunch of bread and all of that kind of stuff, which is another thing to talk about because the food pyramid and my plate is just...
you go from my plate?
Whoa.
We're challenging the industries here.
Whoa. Go ahead and tell them.
It's... So looking at my plate, it's better. My plate is better than the food pyramid. But at the bottom of the food pyramid were like breads and carbs and all of these things that are essentially sugar that turns into sugar in your body. And I don't know if you guys are, but are you scared of like fats or like avocados or oils?
I love avocado. Get out of here.
We've been told though that fats are bad for you and oils are bad for you, and to do this low carb, higher protein approach. And I think that's okay. But we can't forget that fats, your brain runs on fat, Fat helps your body burn fat. So we need to find a balance, and we actually need to have less of the breads and the pasta and all of that stuff, and less of the calorie counting. In my opinion, if you're eating your fruits and vegetables, you're eating decent protein, whether that's vegetarian protein or animal protein, and lower carb, you're going to be healthy. If you're active, you're going to be healthy. The reason I say lower carb is because we're way less active than we used to be. But if someone leads like a high activity lifestyle and you want to have more carbs, go for it. But it's an individual approach. But I feel like these companies are giving us just enough to be healthy-ish, but not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not healthy enough to keep you out of the hospital.
Exactly.
Come on now.
I mean, it's healthy versus healthcare.
Exactly.
So.
And they don't want to, they want us... It's frustrating, because if they can maintain a level of being just kind of sick for as long as possible, that's how they make the most money.
Yeah.
So I really think just going back to being a bio individual and empowering people, like what is healthy for you? Because for me, I notice if I don't have animal protein, I lack energy. So I do have animal protein, not a ton of it, because I think we eat way too much meat. Right now.
Probably.
But I do have some of it, and then I balance my carbs, and I have lots of vegetables. That's where I feel my most vibrant and healthy. Someone else might feel like crap on animal protein. So it's okay for them to go with beans and legumes and things like that, but just letting people kind of decide for themselves and listen to their body instead of someone saying, this is what you need to eat to be your healthiest,
Wow.
It's a balance.
Like that.
That's interesting
that
because...
sounds doable.
Yeah.
Just going back to what you said before, they don't it's not an industry that allows the person to lead. Like you don't lead with self. Because I remember, there was a situation where I was going to a doctor and I was telling them like, hey, this is what I wanted, and she was like, well, this is what we do typically for patients who have whatever.
This. Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, but I'm not doing that. So you need. I need a plan B. Give me another option because I'm telling you that this one isn't working for me. You know what I mean? Even though I expressed to her the reasons why I didn't want, I'm just gonna say this, right? I would say for Black women, especially doctors in the push of birth control for any type of issue that you have as a woman, I feel like that's just ridiculous. I feel like that's ridiculous. I'm sitting in your chair telling you I'm not gonna do birth control because of the long-term effects that it has on the female body, and you're telling me that I should because this is the only thing. This is what you give. You know what I mean? So I just feel like, what's the point of this copayment and this insurance? Why? If you're not, you know what I mean? Because it's on the internet that birth control has caused X, Y, and Z. And here I am, a Black woman who is one of the demographics who are mostly affected by this and she was a Black woman doctor,
I mean,
so
educated.
But she has to follow this, what I mean? I think it's really...
I mean, she's in an industry. She's in a corporate. She's
and
a
who
corporate.
is she educated? Who educated her on?
OSU. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Okay. Ooh. Wow. Coming for them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something to talk about because we hold doctors and nurses and people in the medical field in such high regard, and I think that we should. But we also need to recognize that they've been taught what they've been taught, and that's it. And they have zero time to do other research. So I think there's a beauty of not being in that industry because I'm able to look at everything and all sides of it. But one thing I want to talk about that you mentioned is that the healthcare system right now takes care of symptoms. It doesn't treat the cause. And birth control covers up the symptom, but never actually fixes why hormones or whatever it is off kilter in the first place. And that's something I really struggle with. And I want to empower people every time you go to the doctor to ask why. Why would I need birth control?
Exactly.
Why are my hormones out of whack? Like, keep asking that question, and if they aren't willing to search for that with you,
get a new doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what Ashley said, like, this is my life, and if you don't value human life as a doctor, I'm not paying you my money.
It's too expensive.
It's way too expensive.
I always told my patients, you know your body better than anyone else. Don't let these doctors come in here and use all their big words
and
to scare you into thinking that you're making up your symptoms. You're not. Like, you're feeling what you're feeling inside. I mean, you've been living in your own body for how long?
For however long.
So how did you let this guy convince you? You know,
you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Your body is communicating with you 24/7. And I think we need to find a new normal. And like, people are okay with being tired. Oh, I'm just tired. I've always been like this, or I have PMS, or things like that. That's actually not normal.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to start normalizing the fact that, like, it's okay to want to feel amazing all of the time because it's possible. And a lot of people just think, oh, these are the cards I was getting. That's just my life.
Yeah.
And they go to the doctor, they'll say, like, I'm really tired, and they're like, oh, do this, but never actually just like, well, why are you tired? Why are you having trouble getting through the day?
I guess it goes back to them not having the time to
I want to touch on, just based off what you're saying, birth control, just like with birth control, right? So you go to this doctor your whole life on and they give you birth control.
Yeah.
Some girls as young as 12.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Then now, you've made your way into adulthood, and now you're trying to have a baby and you can't have a baby, and now you're trying to tell us that it's normal
and you're 26,
that everybody's losing babies.
What I mean?
And you know what I mean? Like, no, this cannot be normal. Don't convince us that it's normal that women in their 20s,
their hormones
early 30s
are out of whack and they can't have children.
And they can't have children.
And it's not
or they're
because
having
of birth control.
Right, and they're having extremely difficult pregnancies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not normal.
No,
that's
it's not
okay.
And they're giving birth control for acne.
Crazy.
Like, what?
Yeah.
No, they're giving birth control to control the population. That's literally what they're doing.
All the
truth.
Listen,
that's what
revolutionary.
They're doing.
This is what
that's
we do.
what they're doing.
It's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
And people are under the impression that it's the only option too. That's what drives me crazy. Like, you know what? You can say birth control, but like, give people other options and say, if you don't want to do this, maybe try this, or work with or work with someone that can maybe prevent this stuff from happening so you don't have to do birth control. But even for me, like, I had really bad cramps, really bad PMS. I felt horrible. And I've completely reversed that through
eating well
and lowering the inflammation in my body and taking care of myself and listening to my body. And people would be shocked, like, because I was told that I couldn't reverse that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're always told that. And I feel like, I don't know, my experience just with, I'm a person, I don't like the doctor anyway. Just to begin with, I don't like feeling sick and things like that, or having to go. If I go to the doctor, I think I'm about to. It's because I'm like at my last.
You're on that point. You may not make it.
I may not make it.
Black people.
It's because she's telling me to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? When she starts telling me, and my mom starts telling me, I'm like, all right, let me go to the doctor.
Yeah.
But just my experiences, even when I've been the patient or I've been the support of a patient when I go there, I just don't like it, right? Just the impatience. Like, I've been there with elderly I've been there with elderly like family members on behalf of them, and I didn't like the way that was done. I will say there are professionals who are really great at what they do. I don't want to take that away from anyone. This is about the corporation. This is about the industry as a whole, and not necessarily individual doctors or healthcare professionals. And then there was another case where I was there with like a younger family member, and just like routine stuff. Like they just wouldn't even take the time to sit and talk to you when you, like, they go to school for this. They know these things. But me or whoever, I'm just a regular person, probably doing something else. I don't know what's wrong. And you telling me I have to undergo either this operation or take this medication that might cause me to lose my legs, and you're not willing to sit down and really make sure that I understand the information.
You guys have to understand, healthcare recently changed. Like Obamacare, or whatever you want to call it, is
Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care Act. That is what changed healthcare, like has changed healthcare drastically as far as customer service. Customer service was not a thing that healthcare used to do, healthcare workers used to do. We used to tell you what to do and you take it or you leave it. Like pretty much it was like, you know, doctors, the idea of doctors being rude and mean, that it comes from that culture of before Obamacare. Because with Obamacare now, you know, there are ratings. You rate the hospital, and based off of that rating, that's how you get your money, your insurance reimbursed, the money reimbursed. So this is new. Like,
I would
even
have to say that
being
I disagree.
nice.
Well, I mean, I
is
agree.
new.
I agree with you, but in my experience, the older doctors have taken more time with us. The older doctors, more experienced doctors, have, in my experience, have been willing to really, because I think they've seen it and they understand. Whereas these newer doctors and physician's assistants and like
Who do you think is teaching these doctors?
I'm saying, like,
They come from under these.
I'm talking about in sitting with us. Like a younger doctor has never done that. It's always been like an older person who has to come in, because I'm like, I want a different doctor. You know, if you send in your resident and I have an issue with your resident, I want to talk to the attending. So then the attending has come in and like sat down and like talked to me because I have requested that, but I know for others it's not.
But it's like they raise their doctors, and that's in that world, you know what I mean? Like the attending will really like cultivate, and so that whatever doctor comes out of that under that attending says really something about the attending. Okay, so they may come to you and you know, be nice and suck up to you in your face, or there are some doctors that are just genuinely really good doctors, and they sit down. I've seen doctors who really sit down and break it down to you. They get to your level. They even get lower than you. I respect those doctors. They love what they do. When they walk out, those kind of doctors, they teach the nurses. They let us know, this is why I prescribe this. This is why, you know what I mean? This is why we're doing this order. Or, you know, they're willing to teach. They're educators. That's what healthcare, I mean, look at you. You're educating people because that's what you're passionate about. When you have passion for it, you start teaching others, and that's how you know. So if you're rushing, you know, to get through with me,
you're just doing the job. You're not really like sitting down and working with people. I want to give a shout out. I have a naturopathic doctor, and I think it's kind of common with all naturopathic doctors, but my first appointment was 2.5 hours.
Wow.
She sat down and asked me how I was born, if I was like, we went from the beginning.
Really? Wow. You're going to have to leave her contact information before you leave today.
I mean, she was really amazing, and it was so nice, and I think people need this to be heard, and to really have someone who's willing to go through the whole process with them and figure out like, oh my gosh, you have this now because when you were 2 or 3, this happened, and it's been brewing for like such a long time. You know, so that's really cool. But
I was just talking to somebody.
I definitely need her contact information.
Like, now that I think about it, like when I was growing up, I always had stomach issues. And I'm just, so I'm like, what? I probably should have hit around.
Yeah, the gut is everything. I mean, oh gosh, I could rant for days. So, you know, they have GMO foods right now, and foods that they put herbicides, pesticides, all of that stuff on. Those kill bacteria. Those kill bugs. We're eating that stuff, and we are killing the bacteria in our stomach and in our gut. And our gut is our immune system. And that's a big thing to talk about right now, because with this pandemic and everyone's so worried about COVID, like, our best form of control is having a good immune system and taking care of ourselves. So if you're eating food that's not organic and is GMO and has been treated with pesticides and herbicides, you're going to have gut issues. So, but also like, why would a government be willing to give us that food? Knowing, and they know, they know the health ramifications.
American government now.
It's really crazy. And then they can sue. If a GMO seed blows into an organic farmer's crop, they can sue that farm and completely ruin people's lives.
They can sue the farm.
Because they have their GMO seeds on the farm. Even if it just blew over. That's happened multiple times. There's a documentary. I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. I'll have to find the name of it and send it to you guys. But things like this are happening, and it's their form of control. It's how they're controlling everyone. I could rant for a long time about this. But I do want to say, I think it's really a disservice to people that preventative healthcare is so expensive. Even for my mom, she went and saw lots of naturopathic doctors. Cost her so much money. And towards the end, she went to go see another one. It would have been over $100,000 for her to get that treatment.
Wow.
That's not okay. And why does healthcare only cover the doctors that they want us to go to?
Right.
Why is preventative medicine not covered under that? Why can't you choose who you want to work with?
And you see, this is what we talked about in our first episode. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Nursing Home Suck episode. Yeah. If y'all haven't watched it, go ahead and go watch it.
Go watch it. What are you doing here? Go watch the first episode.
While I'm talking to y'all, subscribe, like,
click
comment.
The link. No, I'm just kidding.
But
yeah, so oh man, now I lost what I was saying.
We're talking about natural health care. Covered. Yeah,
exactly. So our model of care is not covered by the government either.
Isn't that crazy?
No, it's out of pocket.
Like, it's just crazy that it's. We were saying, I think we said this in another podcast, that it's really the government is, if you had to describe the government as a person, who would you how would they look like?
Oh my gosh.
What would they look like? A physical, if it was a person, the government.
Jeez. Hitler.
Oh,
I was going to say Donald Trump, but I mean, I feel like people have compared them.
A white man.
Listen, I feel like it's this total idea of control and not allowing people to make their own decisions and really like trying to think for people instead of giving people the option to think for themselves, which
but it's also corporations. If you gave the face of a corporation, it's also a white man. They're just giving money to each other. That's all that's happening.
They're part of the club and we're not in it.
And we're not in it. We literally are just working in there.
Trying to
we don't even want to be in that club.
We don't. We just want the money.
Exactly.
The money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
I'm just tired of being used by that club. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're telling us what our options are, what we're stuck doing when we have all these awesome, like, you're right. Like, why wouldn't my insurance be able to cover that?
Especially if it's preventative care. And I know a lot of these hospitals are for profit. So they make money off of prescribing people pharmaceutical drugs. And why don't we have a model where hospitals make money based off people getting better and not having to come back in all the time?
This is great. This is interesting. Oh my gosh.
How amazing would that be? Because then that would change the narrative completely. So the healthcare system's still making money, but now they're being held accountable for making people healthy instead of keeping them sick to make money. Wow. It would be really an interesting turn.
It would have to be like overthrown and gutted out.
Well, the thing is not as many people would want to practice because it would weed out all of the people who are doing this. The for
bad
money.
Doctors. It would weed out the bad doctors.
But that would be great for us.
That would be great for us.
It would be great for
us.
So, but then they're saying, okay, but then there's going to be a lot of sick people. But then if we're focusing on preventative care, if we have better doctors who are actually trying to make people healthier, then maybe eventually we will catch up.
It's really amazing what's like as simple as possible to get your health back. Just food. Taking care of yourself, getting out. They've gotten us so brainwashed with social media and our phones and the TV that we're not able to think about things and research and kind of fight against them because we're so busy all of the time. But I would really empower people to take little steps and see how your health improves. Honestly, taking out pop and sugar will do wonders for people and inflammation in their body and their levels of, being tired. I feel like that's the start to it. If everyone does little steps, it's going to make a big difference, but we have to wake up.
Can I say if you read that book Recovery,
Yeah.
or just even, see what the gist of it is, we need a program for the addicted. Okay.
I agree.
If you have a program, let me know. I'm signing up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about AA. We sit down in a circle and I talk about how I had to not eat Reese's today. Like,
we'll talk about that. I think that's the goal though. Eventually, like, I'm just starting my business and trying to figure out what it looks like, but I would like to make it a platform where people can go and there are steps and there are resources, because with how busy we are, people don't always have time to research, and they want someone to say, do these things, but it needs to be the right person and someone who's not doing it for greed or money or power. It needs to be from people that actually care. And there are a lot of resources out there, but they're being censored right now, which is really scary to me.
what does that mean?
What do you mean?
Like even Green Med Info, their Instagram just got deleted, but it's a site where they have research studies and all of these things about natural health.
Who do you think is doing the censoring?
Mark Zuckerberg.
I mean, in all honesty, I think we can't even...
Bill Gates. No, I'm just kidding.
You said in all honesty, what?
I don't even think we know. Like, I think there are people up there that we don't even know about.
Yeah, definitely.
That are very few that are controlling all of us. But yeah,
The
even
1%.
videos on Instagram. I follow a lot of natural health people, and their videos are getting taken off and being censored. Yeah, it happens all of the time. If they mention like vitamin D and working on your immune system and things like that, their videos get taken off.
Wow.
I'm like, if people are okay with that, like, where does it stop? Because one of the beautiful things about living in this country is that there's free speech, and we're allowed to say what is important to us, our opinions. And if it's so easily just taken down and thrown away, what do we have? It's really kind of, right now is a scary time in a lot of ways.
It's free speech with an asterisk.
Right.
As long as it fits into the narrative.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
Because even the negative speech that we're silencing people, you know what I mean? And when we silence them, I mean, what do we think happens? Do we think they just stop thinking these thoughts and stop saying,
They're still out there.
Yeah. They're just now hidden. Now they're hiding.
Right. I think it would be so much more powerful if we took everyone's opinions and people had conversations about it, instead of just that cancel culture. Like, well, you don't fit in the narrative, so we're deleting you.
Yeah. But it's hard to fight. Like, even with this conversation that we're having, like, I know there are people who might listen to it and reject the information, because
for sure.
It's hard to fight conditioning when you've been conditioned to believe in something or to act in a certain way. It's really, really hard to kind of like detach yourself. I think it's, as a people, as a community, I don't really think we understand the difference between like ourselves, like our spiritual selves, and then our human selves, because they are two different things that operate as one. You know what I mean? And I feel that our human selves we've given so much into our flesh and just what we're able to see and hear with our eyes and ears, that when I hear something or when I see something that goes against everything that I've been taught and conditioned as, I'm like,
you reject it.
Yeah, or I call you a conspiracy theorist, or you know what I mean? I just reject it because the information that you're giving is not any that I've heard before, and it goes
against your belief system. Yeah,
directly against my belief system. So I feel like we're not, as a people, we're just so conditioned to just believe what we were taught.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like when we realize that our beliefs are not really our beliefs.
Yeah, it's what
we've been taught. You know what I mean? So
and it's funny because, like I grew up in church, and when I started learning about other religions, just inquiring,
just reading a book,
maybe took a class or something, maybe read a book. Yeah. My family, they were so threatened by it.
That's a whole
another podcast episode. Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yes.
No, but it's just like, it tells you, like, when somebody wants you to believe a particular thing or, to follow, not to say that they were, wrong, maybe that's all they knew, but it's just like, why are you threatened by me having this knowledge?
Right. I'm educating myself.
Yeah. So even with that page, why are they so threatened by that? Tells you that information is golden if you're so threatened by it.
I completely believe that. And I think the term conspiracy theorist really frustrates me because it's being used to discount people that critical think. right now. You know, like, oh, that's different than what I know. Oh, they're a conspiracy theorist. Instead of being like, okay, I don't believe that, but let me look into it. Let me see what this is all about, and then make your own decision, because I respect anyone who looks at two different sides and then comes up with their own opinion, whether it fits into my opinion or not. But this idea of like the media, which that's also a whole other topic, because the media is controlling everything.
Oh my goodness.
Right now. It's absolutely crazy. I don't even watch the media right now.
Me neither.
Me neither.
It's not good for my mental health.
I have become the media.
I'm so happy you're here and saying that, because that's what I've been doing lately.
Yeah, no, just don't do it. I mean, they are determining what we think about, how we think about it, and what we should be doing. And I don't trust anything that, number one, is run by corporations and makes a ton of money.
Okay.
They're profiting off of this in some way.
Exactly.
Off of our pain, off of
like
our
COVID-19, literally hospitals are the people who are profiting off of COVID-19. Like, I feel like we should at least look them under a microscope or something.
Like,
what's going on? Why are you profiting like this? Because the hospitals are, media is, I mean, people are obsessed. They have their eyes glued to the TV just to know what the numbers are today.
To know how to feel about things. You know, they're glued to the TV to, I don't know. It's very frustrating. I have a doctor. So I have a naturopathic doctor and then my primary care doctor. And my naturopathic doctor suggested this one. So he's very kind of natural, but fits into the healthcare system. But he was supposed to get on TV and talk about hydroxychloroquine. And he was like, I really debated not, because he's like, I'm scared I'll lose my practice. I'm scared for my family. Like, it's sad that he is scared to be honest about his experiences, because he's used it on patients. He's very familiar with the drug. But he felt like if he went on TV and stated his actual opinion,
he would be like,
what was his opinion? I want to know.
Right? Is that the medicine that we heard that?
Yes, the Nigerian doctor. Did you see that? She was this night they had in Washington D.C. It was like a press conference or something, and this Nigerian doctor was kind of going in. She was just talking about how she's used it and how it's amazing, and that COVID-19 can be cured. And
but the patent's up, so now they can't profit off of hydroxychloroquine. So normally it would be very, very cheap for people to have access to. So that's why,
That's why what?
That's why they're discounting it and say, no, it doesn't work. Use this drug.
So what was your doctor's opinion on it?
It works.
What?
It works.
Did you hear what she said?
What?
She said the patent on that medication.
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah, I heard that, but I just wanted to hear what his stance was or her stance was.
So I think he still did I think he went on TV. I don't know if he did or not, but he said, I'm going to go on there, but I'm going to give very little information. He said, I'm just going to say, like fit into this little box so he doesn't get in trouble.
Because they tried to discredit that lady, that Nigerian.
Oh, the Nigerian. Yeah. That whole big panel. Yeah. And they tried to discredit her and said she's like a devil worshiper. Like, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. If you're finding medicine that's helping people, like, why are they doing all this work to discredit her and call, it's
Who sounds like the devil worshiper now.
Oh, right. So how is this? So I guess I'm just curious to know, maybe later on we'll find out, like, who is this COVID-19 benefiting? Like, who? I mean, obviously corporations.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I can't say. It's all speculation, but I think money is being exchanged and power is being exchanged right now. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about because we're so distracted by COVID. So I would encourage people, anytime something huge is going on in the media, to just look at what else is going on. 5G is happening right now, which is, I consider, pretty scary. And that's being kind of under the radar, and they're putting 5G boxes. I don't know what it is. I'm not technical in that way. They're putting that kind of stuff up. There's stuff going on politically. And I definitely think that COVID is real. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think it's real. But I think there is more going on, and it is worth looking into and challenging the narrative a little bit. And to feel empowered, like, if you are taking care of your body, our body is meant to fight viruses. We have this idea that this thing is so foreign. It's a virus, and it is really affecting older people and people that have pre-existing conditions. But even Dr. Mark Hyman, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, he's huge in the natural world. You can change your blood sugar levels in as little as 3 days by taking care of yourself and eating healthy. So that should be really empowering for people to hear. If you even do have these pre-existing conditions, you can work on yourself and start to notice improvements in a short amount of time. So stop drinking pop, everyone. You know, eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, have good quality protein. And that's also a whole nother topic. But if you can afford it, pasture-raised protein, you know, free-range eggs, things like that, and just start getting out and moving your body. Because right now we're isolated. They have us at home, and we need to be outside and taking care of ourselves.
Breathing fresh air.
Yes.
Sleeping.
Yep.
All that good stuff.
All of that good stuff.
Yes. Wow. Oh my goodness. You know, we have different parts of our podcast, right? Marcella?
Yeah, we literally have, oh my gosh.
Is that still, you still haven't even told us the website, right? Like, we're not even there yet.
Yes. The website's a work in progress, but I do have one. It's auricvitality.com.
Okay.
If you'd like to work with me, my email is marcella@auricvitality.com. And right now, I'm hoping to do one-on-one coaching, even group coachings, like to have a group of friends, because it's better with a support system.
Yeah.
So if you have a group of friends and you all want to start on your health journey, I have rates for that, like a discounted group rate. And then I'm going to start slowly putting educational materials on my website so people know that they can go to this website, and it's going to be, you know, stuff that's going on, stuff that you can buy, products that are really healthy, and educational videos.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's like a one-stop shop.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is exciting. And I'm excited from this conversation because another industry that we have coming on is very similar to just we're going to go for the pharmaceutical industry too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're just coming for all.
I can't wait to listen to
That's
that
gonna
one.
be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is like $1 billion industry.
Oh my goodness.
It's absolutely crazy. So
It's like, how is this legal? How is this okay? Because it's a capitalist society, I guess. They just respect the money making of it.
it's really crazy without regard to how it's affecting people. You know, I think when I hear about these side effects, I have a very sensitive system. So if they say a side effect, I'm going to get it. You know?
Oh, wow.
So
I'm sorry.
I know, right? I really stay away from that kind of stuff. Ooh, you know what I wanted to talk about? Can we talk about antibiotics real quickly?
Ooh, go ahead.
And how we are overused. I just want to tell people, be very careful about how often you take antibiotics. And if you do, supplement with probiotics, because we talked about the gut. Right now, doctors are giving antibiotics if you even come in with a runny nose, you know? And in all honesty, the way that we build up our immune system and take care of ourselves is by having probiotics, good bacteria in our gut. And every time you get antibiotics, they don't differentiate between good and bad bacteria.
Yeah, they just kill.
It kills all of it. And it takes years to build that back up.
Wow.
So, and then once you have gut issues, if you can't take care of that, it affects the rest of your body. As the years go on, you're going to start noticing more and more things.
Yeah.
Let me just say, so from a nurse's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Antibiotics creep me out just because, you know, I work with like IV antibiotics. So I see it in the liquid form.
Yeah.
And there have been times where, you know, I'm like, you have to spike the bag to kind of get the line going to give it to the patient. And there have been times where some of the antibiotic will leak out and it smells like something burnt.
Ooh.
It just smells like poison. Like it does not smell like anything. And so like I would wash my hands off like quickly, things like that when it touches me. But doctors, like you'll come into the hospital and usually you'll see a primary doctor, like a general doctor, who's just kind of sees your overall health, right?
Yeah.
And if they see that you're sick and you might have an infection, they just throw all kinds of antibiotics on you.
Just in case, right? They just
Be like antibiotics.
Yeah.
So I'll have like
kill
a patient, and like one time I had a patient, and I literally hung like 4 different kinds of antibiotics on this patient. And mind you, an infectious disease doctor, who is the doctor who will, you know, find out what disease you have and know what antibiotic is going to kill that specific disease. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or infection. So that doctor will come in and say, oh no, stop all those other medications. This is the one I want them to be on or whatever. And it's just like, so it's like, wow. So we're just pump them up.
We're just playing with.
Pump them
Like
up
there
with
are no
through
side
their
effects.
IV like that.
Yeah.
That's where all of my health problems started. I was super healthy. And then I think it was probably 8th grade or freshman year of high school, but I was really skinny. I was, you know, skin and bones, and they gave me a very high dose of antibiotics. And that's where my health journey started, because I had skin issues. I was tired all of the time. I had bowel issues.
Wow.
To this day, I'm still trying to fix my gut.
Wow.
So it's just something to keep in mind. You know, when they're trying to give you antibiotics, it's okay to question it. It's okay to ask why. And if you have to do them, that's fine. But make sure you're rebuilding your gut bacteria, because taking care of your gut will fix a whole host of other health problems. So that's the place to start.
I think you should always question anyone who's trying to tell you what to do.
Always ask why, and then look into
Yep.
it. You know, every single thing they prescribed my mom, we looked into it. You know, and there were many times where they would try and give her a double dose, and I'd be like, I thought she was already on that. You know, like, be very aware of what's going on, because it's not even on purpose. People are busy. People are running from patient to patient. So you have to really be an advocate for yourself, in this hospital setting.
So some doctors will add things that literally contradict with another medication, and that causes you a whole nother problem.
But let's talk about how they don't like when you ask them questions.
Ooh, that's a really, really big thing to talk about, because I experienced that a lot.
They don't like that at all.
And a ton of pushback. Even with supplementation, you know, why is she taking that? Why are you guys doing that?
Why are you giving me this medication?
Yeah. It's very, like, I think in the healthcare world, there's a lot of ego, you know, because we put these doctors on a pedestal, you know, and they're wonderful. And I'm not saying that they don't do wonderful things. I mean, a lot of ways they saved my mom's life, but it should be teamwork between you and the doctor, instead of this dictatorship. Well, this is what you do, and if you want to question me, you're on your own. But that's what happened a lot throughout my mom's 3.5 years. And that was just her second bout of cancer. Her first bout of cancer, she had it when I was a freshman in college. And I remember being so scared, because she pulled me aside and said, I want to treat it naturally.
Oh, okay.
And I was freaked out, you know? And so she did. And she drank, like, this is not medical advice to anyone. I want to be very clear about that. She did a ton of supplementation and drank 5 pounds of carrot juice a day. And carrot, it's anti-angiogenic, so it, you know, works on tumors. And she went back and got a thermogram, and the cancer was gone.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, after that, she got really involved in politics and stopped the protocol and taking care of herself, and it came back. And that's another thing I want to mention. When you get a disease, it's so much harder to get better. It's so much easier to prevent a disease.
Yeah.
So I hope this is a wake-up call for people, too, because if you can prevent it and take care of yourself while you're healthy now, you might not have to worry about this stuff. But for her, since she already had cancer once, her body was very susceptible to getting it again. And she really had to stick with the protocol, you know, until she actually fixed the problem. But unfortunately, it did, you know, it came back. But I just want to say, you know, working with these patients and trying to have this teamwork and this ownership on both ends, I think can really, really change a person's life.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, she tried to get back into the medical field after she treated herself naturally. And the reason that the cancer got so bad is that they wouldn't take her back in.
What do you mean?
They weren't willing to work with her because she wasn't in the system. They saw that she had treated it naturally.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't have space for her. So she finally was able to get in once she broke her back, and they saw how bad the cancer was. But she was...
So, I need you to...
Yeah.
They didn't accept her as a patient?
Yeah,
As a
she
patient?
kept calling. She kept trying to go in and would say, you know, I had cancer before, but I treated it naturally. And they'd be like, oh, no, we really can't get you in. Or it would be months and months and months and months down the road.
Wow.
You know, like she wasn't a priority. And I think it was just because she challenged the narrative in the beginning. And so the only way that she was able to get back into the system is once she was already in for something else. And then they treated the cancer. But when I came back from Oklahoma, they weren't even going to give her chemotherapy. They told me, she's so bad, we don't even know if it's worth it.
What?
Wow.
And hearing that was like, it really broke me. You know, it's hard for people to tell you they don't think your mom's life is worth even trying.
Wow.
You know, but she was like, no, I'm going to do this. She was really tough, and she put her foot down, and they said, we'll give it to you. We're not going to give you the next surgery, though, because that's a waste of our time if you're going to die. So they essentially said, if we see any, you know, if you start getting better from chemo, then we'll think about doing the back surgery.
They'll think about it.
Yeah, it wasn't a given.
Wow.
So yeah, she ended up getting better, and then they're finally like, okay. Yeah, I think
But we pay for it.
Yeah, and to hear them say like, well, we don't think it's even worth our time to give her chemotherapy.
We're like, well, I don't care. That's what I'm selecting on the menu.
Yeah, exactly. And that's essentially, she
Not the
was like,
menu.
I'll show you guys.
Yeah.
And she did. And it's such a, one day I'm going to put out the whole journey with my mom because it was a journey.
Yeah.
But she had, so let me just say, she had cancer in her eyeballs, her neck and spine, her brain, her liver, her breast, the lining in her gut.
Wow.
I think her bones. The only place it wasn't was her kidneys.
Wow.
And so she started having fluid build up in her stomach. And the doctors were like, oh, no, that's nothing. And so I researched it. And I found out that she had something going on with her liver. And I told the doctors, they're like, I don't think that's it. Finally, it kept getting worse. They checked, and I can't remember the name of it. But essentially, her liver was, like, not working. And they're like, we're probably going to have to give you a liver transplant. But
even though you were, like, saying, you know, like, hey, check this out.
Yeah, they weren't. But then they decided, like, she would have never gotten a liver transplant because it wasn't worth it. She was already sick. So I did some research. My mom and I did together, and we found that the liver can regenerate. We told the doctor, they're like, that'll never happen, ever. Within, like, a month, her numbers started improving, and her liver started regenerating. To the point where at the end, her liver was functioning completely normal.
Wow.
Because
listen, this is
supplementation.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't give medical advice.
Yeah,
right?
no,
But I know, but I just had to know. I mean,
Yeah, she was taking milk thistle, and milk thistle is known to help regenerate your liver.
Wow.
So we did that. We were doing dandelion teas, all of these things that are known to regenerate the liver, and we were just giving it a shot. Like, what is the harm?
Yeah.
But
what your other alternative is what they're saying, which is definitely not
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and then she also used to have to go in, and she would gain about 20 pounds of fluid, and they'd have to drain it.
Yeah.
And she did this like every week for months on end. They said this will never get better. And we kept working on it. We kept doing alternative remedies, and eventually she stopped getting fluid in her stomach.
Wow.
Wow.
So always question the narrative.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I've actually started looking into Rosemary's Herbal Institute. Yeah.
Gabby was telling you about that. That's
so
my
she's
mom
the
did
one,
that.
Yeah, she told me that. She sent me, because it was just an interest that I had recently, and I just feel like, because I don't like doctors. I don't like...
Not all doctors.
Not all doctors. I'm saying
We
for
do
me,
love doctors.
Right.
we love doctors, of course. I just don't like going to them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like going to them. So, you know, I'd rather know how to kind of do things on my own and for my family. So I thought that was interesting. And, you know, here on this show, specifically me, I'm kind of revolutionary. But, like, I think it's, well, you know, it's, your discretion is up to you. But these experiences that you're sharing with us of these doctors who just were not even open to hearing kind of your story, I feel like it's important for people to know who these doctors are. Not that you have to say that. Right. I'm just saying in general, like, people like this, we really need to just stop them.
You can leave reviews for doctors.
Yeah.
They have.
Yeah, but in all honesty, it's not even... I think it's most doctors in this medical system, because they have a set of protocols that they have to follow, and they're not allowed to suggest that you do something else that doesn't follow these protocols. Yeah. So I think that there are doctors that have your best interests at heart but aren't able to act on it. I will say, you know, she went to one of the top cancer, you know, places.
Hospitals.
Yeah, hospitals in the country.
In the country, huh?
But you know, they gave her 6 to 8 weeks, and you know, she was pretty much blind in one eye from the tumor, and they said that'd never go away. It went away, and she got all of her sight back. Wow. In that eye. So there were so many things that they were just like amazed by my mom, and they're like, we don't even know how you're here, how you're even walking. But they never asked how.
And you know, I feel like a lot of us have heard, I mean, I know I've heard it in the church where it's like, I was sick and then I went back and the doctor said the cancer was gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so we've heard, there are people who do have these stories who go to the doctor for something, and just the plan of care that they provide for them doesn't work for that person, for that individual. And you know, and the body can fight everything. The body can fight everything, because we were already when we were created, we had everything that we needed, you know?
Exactly. Right.
And a lot of, I think what we don't also take into consideration, a lot of these illnesses are like man-made.
Ooh.
A lot of them are man-made.
I mean, like 90%.
You know what I mean? Because
I mean, just even with the antibiotics, like these super viruses and that can't, you know, be cured with antibiotics. It's because we've been overusing these antibiotics. So now they're just mutated into something that just, you know, is
right. Because if you think about it, if this is our most advanced technological or scientific age, like just why are we living shorter lives? You know, like like how does that make sense?
Well, they say we're living longer though,
but we're not living longer good quality lives. They're keeping us alive in a very unhealthy state, and that's, I don't want to live long if I can't be healthy and get around. You know, I don't want to be strapped to a bed living till I'm 90.
Yeah,
ideally I want to get up and walk and live as long as I can in a healthy way. But I also want to say, how are we okay with the fact that 1 in 3 people get cancer? We should step back and be like, that's horrifying. And that's not normal. Our water quality, our air quality, the food that we're eating, the way that we're working, the stress in our lives, these are all causing cancer. That's what I believe. I really do. I think that cancer is preventable in a lot of cases. And I think that we need to start getting angry about all of the diseases.
Yeah, because it's crazy that you say that 1 in 3. I didn't even know that number was like that. 1 in 3. Yep. That's crazy. And the crazier part about it is, so our field is Alzheimer's and dementia. That's our industry. And 1 in 3 seniors will have Alzheimer's and dementia or dementia.
That's great. In the natural health world, they call Alzheimer's and dementia as like type 3 diabetes. They think it's a correlation.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's something to take into account. I think that if people took sugar out and started eating healthy, that a lot of these diseases would go away. And we're given this idea that, oh, it's part of your genetics, you have no power over this. Yeah. You determine how your genes are expressed. So you might have the gene to get cancer, but if you're a healthy person with that gene may never express itself. If you're unhealthy and don't take care of your body, that gene will express itself in a negative way. So it should be empowering. I think they're trying to take that away from us, and we just kind of feel hopeless. And essentially every woman in my family has had cancer. Wow. But I'm really not scared of it because I really feel like I have the steps to stay as healthy for as long as possible. Cancer is an old person disease, you know what I mean? But we have young kids getting it now. Yeah. We have people in their 20s and their 30s. Like, that's not okay. And it's really time for people to be outraged about it.
And it's happening with dementia too. It's happening to younger and younger people.
Younger people are getting, I mean, listen, we need to take control of our lives, of our bodies. Like, these people don't own us. Okay.
Right. Like, but it starts with like educating yourself. But what do you have to say about, and this is going to be the last question because we have to rate this topic, guys. I don't even think but, so what do you think about those that are healthy that do end up with like, these devastating diseases?
Yeah, I think that we have to figure out what healthy really means, because just because someone looks healthy or doesn't have like a very obvious disease doesn't mean they're healthy, So, people that are getting COVID and they're like, oh my God, this person was so healthy. And it's like, well, what was their lifestyle? And we know that they were actually healthy? Because you don't have to have a big, huge, diabetes, dementia, heart problems to be considered unhealthy. You can have pre-diabetes or underlying health conditions. So I think it's a really too broad of a term to say this person was healthy but they still got sick. I think if you got sick and were at a young age where you should have a great immune system and your immune system didn't work, you might not have been as healthy as you think. Now there's always going to be the outlier, and I don't know those people. I don't know every circumstance, but eating fast food, not being active, sitting in front of a screen all day, that's unhealthy. Yeah. And people can look healthy and live that lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that they're healthy. So that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
Cool. This is my very last question. I know she said that was the last question, but I'm
just slip one in there.
She's testing me.
So just being in this COVID era. Yeah. How do you feel about the whole, just knowing that just knowing how disease and infections work, how do you feel about the world essentially running away and the whole wearing a mask when you're in the park? Just how do you? What are your thoughts about just when we talk about health?
Right, she's like, what are you?
I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Right, it's like, but isn't that sad? Why can't we speak our minds? Yeah, without being in trouble?
Right. Because It doesn't make sense. A lot of what we're doing doesn't make, it doesn't make sense.
People are in cars by themselves with masks
with
on.
a mask on. Like, what are you?
People are running outside, they're biking with a
walking
mask
their dogs
on.
with mask on.
It blows my mind, and I think it is such a false sense of security.
Yes.
That you can be so unhealthy and not, but I'm just going to put a mask on. It's with everything. We want this quick fix, you know, like, well, I personally disagree with wearing a mask. I think that we're meant to breathe air and oxygen. And
Agree.
I think that if we really think we can avoid viruses by wearing this piece of...
As humans, right? Okay.
To me, I just don't see the
Are they going to make fun of us? Are they going to make fun of us in the
Who's gonna
future?
make fun of us?
The generations
Definitely.
to come?
Come at me.
Listen, our ancestors are probably making fun of us.
Are they going to make fun of us as the
for the
people
mask,
wearing a
yes.
mask and
They're
thinking
gonna
that
look at
it's...
us and be like,
It doesn't make any sense.
I need things to be logical. And for me, when I was wearing a mask, I felt sick. I did not feel good. So
Yeah.
I have a mask exemption. I don't have to wear a mask, and I refuse to.
How do I get that? Because I can literally not breathe.
Yeah, so you have to have a doctor that cares about how you feel. So you can
Step
ask
one.
them,
Yeah.
but they have to, put down the medical condition and all of that stuff. But I have a mask exemption, and it annoys people.
It does. I know.
I'll be like, I have an exemption.
This is
They're
going to
like,
be I don't know how people are going to, because I know people who are really big on the wear a mask. Like,
yeah, and I
make
think
a big
So
deal
just
about
wear
it.
your
And then-
mask
Yeah.
and leave me alone. Like, if you're wearing a mask, then you good.
right. I don't understand this mandatory mask. Do what you want to do. If a mask makes you feel safe, wear a mask. If a mask doesn't make you feel good, why should I have to wear a mask then? You know, and I don't think there's certainly not enough studies that show that it actually works.
Exactly. For us to
Exactly.
be just jumping on board,
Like,
jumping on.
what works about it?
There are actually studies that show that it doesn't work.
Yeah, I've seen
And
those too.
yeah.
Actually, it's actually worse because people are touching their face actually a lot
And
more.
you're breathing in
They're
that
touching the
moisture.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time they touch it, then that's like, I mean, and then you're putting your hands down on things. It's like, honestly, the real solution is to wash your hands as much as possible.
Yeah.
That is really what's going to help.
And have a good immune system, you know, and just
And the immune system.
What do you think about this whole being trapped in your house forever thing?
horrible.
Okay.
The entire world is microbiome and bacteria, and we interact with that every day. When we're outside, we're getting that from the trees, from leaves, from the grass, from the ground. And when you're stuck in your house, you're not diversifying your microbiome.
So is this a plan to make us sicker to keep the healthcare industry
Listen,
going?
I don't know their
I'm
plan, but
I'm just asking because
it is making us sicker.
what
You think
about
yeah.
it makes
for sure.
sense? What about it makes sense? You're stuck in your house. You're not getting natural air. You're not breathing. You're not going anywhere. You're not seeing anyone. You're not happy. Like it doesn't, like, mentally, emotionally, physically.
They're isolating us.
They're killing us.
And my doctor was saying, I think it was an anesthesiologist, and she had all of the gear on. She had the mask. She had everything you could possibly think of, and she still got COVID. Now she's okay because she had a good immune system and she fought it. And I'm actually pretty sure I had COVID in December because I don't often get sick, and I had to go to the hospital. I had a 105 temperature, and I was really sick for 2 days, and then I was fine. But they couldn't figure out what it was. COVID wasn't popular then. But it was bad for me, but I also was okay afterwards, you know?
This is a crazy thought that I'm about to say.
Girl, lay it on us because we are chatting. We're coming for everybody right now.
it might-
I know.
well.
You might as well. Like,
I think it's crazy, but you're so revolutionary. What I be
probably won't
saying
think
is
it's
mild
crazy.
compared
Yeah.
to, but it's so interesting. So we talked about birth control and how I said that, it's to control the population, right? Now, a virus. That is a
Absolutely.
natural way for the earth to control the population, is it not?
Yeah.
Like, so why are we running away from that, and we're not paying attention to the other things that are controlling the population, like, as far as like medication and these illnesses and these vaccines and like,
Vaccines, yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
gonna run away from the natural. And we
Yeah.
really rather, instead of getting the natural virus, we rather have the
the
man-made.
vaccine.
That is
How
going
does
to
that
have
make
side
sense?
effects.
How does that make sense?
It's absolutely crazy. And I'm really nervous that they're going to start making vaccines mandatory if you want to travel, if you want to go
That's
anywhere,
crazy.
if you want to job.
Are they really doing that?
It's starting to happen.
How are we free?
We're not. And I think we're under this disguise of like, oh, yes, you're free. You have your freedoms as long as you do this. Like you said, there's an asterisk next to everything. right now. But yeah, it's dangerous territory to like call this kind of stuff out.
Definitely.
And I know
dangerous.
a lot of people may not agree with it, so I just encourage you to be open-minded. It's okay if you want to believe.
We cannot all be sheep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Silence.
No, I'm seriously, like it works out for them. How do you get a whole country and a world to literally lock themselves inside their house?
They picked the perfect thing to do it. They're
How?
using the media for fear.
Yeah.
This virus and when people are scared, they're easy to control.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would really suggest, like, turn off the media for one day.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off your TV. Don't get on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Go outside, take a walk, hang out with a family member, whatever you're comfortable with, and see how you feel.
Right.
People who work for these like companies, like the social media companies, they literally don't use social media.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah,
get rid of
they know.
mine.
But what do you do?
I'm
What
trying
do
to
you
make
do
mine
for
make me
business
money.
though?
Exactly.
That is my
Yeah,
question.
how does it work?
That's where I'm stuck because I'm just like, there's a lot of money to be made on social media.
On these internets.
That's how you market yourself anymore. So
Yeah.
they've gotten us addicted to this. This is the way that you get yourself out there. But I also get frustrated because I can talk about something with my friends and it shows up on an ad on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like that's freaky.
It is creepy.
But we've allowed it and we're okay with it because it's the normal now. But
we're taught not to question the norm. We're taught not to
Yeah.
challenge authority. Like we read this. Listen, I feel like we could talk to you
all day.
Literally all day.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have to stop it at
Right.
some point.
I try to, but this girl want to always take over my structured episode.
I'm just saying, I really want this information to be discussed because it's just like I feel like it's just not right for somebody outside of you, outside of your home, outside of your culture, outside of just your normal day-to-day life can come in and dictate how you go about living your life. And I don't know about anybody else, but I will not go down without a fight. You know what I mean? So I think it's important that we are challenging because listen, just I'm not even gonna
because I mean, if you just feel that way about yourself, can you imagine when you put children on this planet and you want to see
I'm gonna burn this shit down
the best for them.
Exactly. Like,
but actually,
no, seriously, I'm just being honest with you because it's just like I don't feel like I can really be myself. I don't feel like I'm free. And here you are telling me the education that I've acquired tells me how a virus works. You know, it tells me how life works, and here you are, this entity wants to come and control me, and for what? For the sake of what? For you to make more money? Yes. I will no.
Yes.
So I think that's a problem, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed. And by no means am I telling people not to take COVID seriously, but COVID is just like the swine flu, just like Ebola, just like everything else that we have overcome as humans.
Can you imagine if the media marketed how many people are dying of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes?
COVID would pale in comparison.
Exactly.
Yeah. It would pale in comparison.
But they choose what we're nervous about and what we know. And I think it's funny to me that we're discrediting these natural doctors that are putting out this free information on how to take care of yourself, but we're letting Bill Gates tell us what to do. Who's not a doctor,
right?
And
who's
has
not
no
a
medical
doctor
background,
and who's a billionaire and who does not care about us,
and we don't know if he was hanging out with what's his name, Epstein. Yeah. So let's stop looking at these people like they know everything, because clearly they out here raping little children. You know what I mean? I know this is next level, but like. We really have to talk about what's going on in this country, and the leaders of this country are fundamentally not good in their core. Right. So no, I'm not going to just take whatever law you give me, because you're out here like killing people.
Yeah.
That mandatory vaccine really
that set her off.
It really set her off. Right. She was like, listen.
It's true though. I don't even think we can imagine what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I think I know some stuff, but I bet it's way worse.
Way worse. I don't even want to know because it's too heavy.
I don't even
think we can handle that. Yeah, I don't even want that.
I think that...
But it needs to stop.
Yeah. We can empower people, though, to just, question things and really ask... Even when these people are putting out information, look for who it's funded by. These studies that say, oh my gosh, cereal's fine, there's not that much sugar, or pop is fine. Who's funding those studies? You have to look deeper and not just look at
like Cinnamon Toast Crunch Corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But is Warren Buffett funding this? Because
they make money off of the results.
Yeah.
So find these people that don't have loyalties either way. Look at these studies and really decipher and make your own opinion based off of everything that you're researching. But a lot of people just take the media for what it is, and the media is truth. They're like, oh, they said this, so this is what it is. And in all honesty, it's really unempowering to do that, you know, to live in fear. So just question things, take care of yourself, get outside, wear the mask if you feel like you need it, but don't go running outside with a mask on. Don't go biking when you're by yourself in a park with a mask on. The trees are laughing at you. We're laughing at, I mean, it just, there's no, it doesn't make sense.
Breathe. Like, you need the oxygen. You already in your house, like, breathing in whatever fumes are coming from wherever. Just, like, do what feels natural. Does it feel natural to walk around with a mask on? No.
Right. We're getting so far away from what's natural. And I think that's why we're getting more unhealthy.
And that's how they're going to control us. And that is how... Let me stop.
I know. This is going to be like
crazy because
10-hour episode.
Right. Right. Exactly. So let's just rate the topic.
Okay.
Because I don't even think we need...
Because
well, here's the thing. So we usually do ashes and roses because it's what the balance is. And we've talked about a lot of negative things when it comes to...
For sure.
So I think we're set on the ashes when it comes to health.
I
think we covered that. So what do you think some of the roses are when it comes to the healthcare industry? Have you thought of any? Or
there are definitely good things, especially for like immediate care. My mom's surgery, the back surgery, it was 2 different surgeries. It took over 12 hours. Natural medicine could have never done that, you know? And even when she was diagnosed with 6 to 8 weeks to live, there is no herb in this world that would have given her the results as quickly as chemotherapy did.
Okay.
So there are a lot of good things that they did that kept my mom alive. So I do appreciate doctors. I appreciate nurses. We had wonderful nurses and doctors and people that were really open to talking with us. So I think it is important to notice that there is good and bad, and the way that we can get the best out of healthcare is by combining both things, you know, with everything. It's usually not one extreme or the other.
It's everything in
It's
moderation.
this middle ground. There's a lot of work to be done, but there's also a lot of amazing things that come out of the healthcare system. So I think that's important to note.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Like, as far as the innovation that comes out of healthcare, I mean, it's
the technology is
amazing.
amazing.
Absolutely. I just feel like maybe, you know, if we were just to switch, like, okay, getting people healthy is the goal instead of making the most money.
Yeah.
I feel like we would be in a good place.
Good place. Yeah. I would have to agree. I mean, I think there are great doctors and healthcare professionals out there. Like, I've been in situations where, you know, like, especially when you have loved ones who are, you know, in situations, you want to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. So I think that they really do save lives. There are good people. You know, there are really good people out there. So, and yes, the technological advancements are great, you know, because
it's stuff that natural medicine can't do. You know, I would never be someone that says only do natural medicine. I think it's amazing for preventative care. So if you can prevent having to do those operations and going to the doctor, that's great. But when it does come to that, that's where natural medicine has to take a back seat and modern medicine takes over.
Yeah, it just needs to find a way to, like, integrate.
And work together.
But it is changing lives, saving lives to this day. So those are the roses. Any other roses? Any other positive things we want to leave?
You know, everything here, I'm going to say everything starts with good intention. Because when hospitals were built, it was because
the churches.
You know.
The churches.
So everything starts with the good intention. I think, you know, when we start letting the money lead the way is when we start you know, coming up against situations where you just have to make certain decisions that affect you later on.
So on a, you know, from, you know, 1 star being the worst to 5 stars being the greatest, how would you rate this industry overall?
I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay.
Because I think there is really, like I said, really good stuff that they do, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think for it to get like to a 5, we would need to have that combination of both natural medicine and honestly, like, having health coaches within these hospitals. So if the doctor says, hey, you know, you've got high cholesterol, I need you to eat these foods, and then just sends them home, you need to have like someone in between that says, this is how you take care of yourself. We can work together. So I think if we combine health coaches or nutritionists with doctors and holding people accountable, it's going to be amazing, the changes in healthcare. So, but I'm going to give it maybe a 2.5.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah.
2.5 is good.
So that means we halfway there. We just
We're
need the
getting there.
holistic piece. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
I was going with the 3,
Yeah.
3.5
3?
for the same reasons.
Yeah.
So
I would say I was thinking 2.5 as well. Just
Yeah.
because I'm happy I'm definitely happy it's here and it's available
Right.
to us. And, you know, when I get sick, I definitely will make my way over to the hospital.
right.
You're going to wait till you're like on your deathbed and you're like, all right, I'll go.
If there's blood.
I'll do
No,
it.
I seriously just don't like it. Just the first of all, it feels just the institution of it. Just,
Yeah.
just all of
It
It's
is,
not a
yeah.
healing atmosphere at all.
No.
Like I want
Right.
to see some water. You know what I mean? That's for me. That's a healing.
Some hospitals are like
atmosphere.
that, but then it's like, I mean, how much money is going into this fountain of water
No,
that
I'm
you
not
have
talking
running
about the
through
fountain. I'm talking about like body, like a body
like-
of water.
oh,
like you know,
okay.
I want to be healing
beach,
in a
oceanfront view.
Absolutely. Listen, listen.
I'm not mad about it.
Right? You talk about it being a rehabilitative.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that's what I envision in a space of like, I don't think I can heal in a place where a nurse is coming to like stick me every 2 hours and there's lights and it's cold. Hospitals are cold.
And they don't open the window. Like,
I know.
You don't
There's
get
no
fresh
windows
air.
in the rooms.
Because
like,
people have jumped out of the windows
Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah.
because it's terrible being in a hospital.
It should be a retreat. We
Yeah.
should just make a hospital retreat center.
It
Yeah.
should be,
I mean,
yeah,
let's do it.
like
Give
a
our
wellness
business ideas
center.
away.
Yeah.
Here we go, starting another business. Let's relax.
Yeah.
Let's relax. Okay, so we usually end off with a quote of the day. So we've definitely gone way above more time. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like this conversation was necessary. I'm happy
Yeah,
that we
it's
learned
important.
so much from you. Thank you for coming and joining us. But we're gonna leave with a quote. So I will start with my quote. Did you by any chance have a quote to share
do
with
have a
us?
quote.
Yay, that's awesome. Okay, so I'll give my quote, then you can give yours, and then Junie will close this off like she usually
Okay.
does.
Yeah.
So my quote is, "One cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well." And that's Virginia Woolf. I don't really know who that person is,
Okay.
so if she's like, you know,
Yeah, she's
a
an
crazy.
author,
Okay,
right?
great.
I
Okay,
think.
I'm like, if she's like a crazy,
so.
terrible
Right.
person,
She still has a good quote.
Right.
this was a good quote. Yeah.
That's a good quote.
Yeah. So that just, I've actually experienced, because I did like a 3-day, probably the most I've ever done,
Yeah.
of just like fruits and vegetables, like
Yeah.
raw fruit, vegetables. And I definitely saw the difference in my energy and how I felt about myself and just like how I felt in general. So that quote is, I mean, it
big.
says it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. What is your quote? What do you have
You
to
ready
share?
for mine? Okay. Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. Francis Chan.
Wow.
Isn't that big?
Yeah.
I just heard that like a couple months ago, and it really sat with me because there's this whole idea of we just want to be successful, we want to make money, we want to have, prestige and fame. It's like, does it matter to have that if it's not for something else, if you're not giving to the world, the environment, people? So yeah, I like that one a lot.
That's a good one.
I like that too. I think that's gonna sit with me because I'm just gonna be like,
Yeah.
rethink, like, does this matter?
Right.
What am I doing? And does it really matter?
Does it matter? Can you take it when you die?
Right, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great episode. Thank you for coming.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we went into the quotes without asking you what type of entrepreneur you are before Junie closes.
Oh, I think I'm the world changer.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Okay.
I read that and I just feel like, I see the big picture in a lot of ways. And I think for other people that feel like that's their entrepreneur style, it's very important to make priorities and steps because sometimes you get overwhelmed by everything that's going on and everything that you want to fix. So yeah, make those steps, set your priorities, and then just slowly start chipping away at it.
Wow, that's exciting. We got a world changer in the seats.
In the seats, changing the world. I really hope people listen to this episode to the end because I know it's a long one, but listen, it's informative. Yeah, definitely informative. So thank you once again for coming. My quote for the day is, a little bit about kind of like what we were talking about, but it sat with me. It's by Miranda Anderson. And she says, health is adding a level of intention to every area of your life. Oof. So not just like, eating, but also like how do you show up places, right? How do you show up in your relationships? Be intentional in everything that you do, in your businesses, in your relationships, and in your health, and taking care of yourself. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday with another awesome guest. Thank you, Marcella.
Thank you so much for coming.
You guys can hit us all the time on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We're also on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcast. See you next time.
Next Wednesday.